Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm getting ready to get into these standard 50-pound pancake plates. So really going to be kind of a weights in detail type thing. Just going to kind of show some close-up stuff about them, talk about some of the stuff I've done with them, compare them to some other style plates, just to kind of give you a frame of reference or scale to, the size of the plates, how they compare to other weights, and then that will also kind of help out I guess getting the dimensions down or kind of taking a look at some of the different feats of strength or how I've implemented them in training. So yeah, you can see here, I've got a just a 50-pound standard plate. So we have the 1-inch hole for a standard barbell as opposed to an Olympic barbell, which is a 2-inch hole. So these are standard plates. I don't know the make of them. Both of them do have a stamp down here on one side. So on both of these plates, they're double-sided, but there's only a Made in USA stamp on one side of each, and they both have that. I'll bring that up on the screen so you can check it out. But yeah, not sure of the maker. Just know they were made in the US, and there's no lip or anything to grab onto, and that's kind of what gives them that name. People refer to them as pancake weights or pancakes, 50-pound pancakes, whatever. Or, there could be 25s. There's other styles, but yeah, there's a lot of times plates that are standard 1-inch hole diameter, and they'll kind of have this rounded edge. They're not really sharp or square, and there's no like indentations or anything else. They're just a flat circular plate. So these kind of first popped on my radar, getting into grip sport, doing different feats of strength, and obviously, one of the big things in grip sport is plate pinching. So, you're putting two plates together, single hand. And for some things, you can add 3, 4, and you could do double hand, 2-hand pinch. So I'm not saying you can't do 2-hand pinch, but generally for, feats of grip strength, you're looking at, a single hand plate pinch. And that could be anything from pinching, 25-pound plates, 35s, 45s, and then up to, 25 kilo, 55-pound plates. But right up there towards the top of some of the best plate pinch feats, you're going to find these 50-pound pancakes kind of slide in there, being harder than almost every other 45-pound plate. There are some exceptions where maybe some York deep dish or something would be harder to lift than these, but that also has a hand size factor to it that, is it that the feet's so much harder, or is it just the hand size thing, So that's a more in-depth subject, but yeah, so there are probably some pairs of 45-pound plates that could be harder, but in general, with both of these plates being 50 pounds or more, you're looking at holding 100 pounds with a single hand pinch grip, no lip, nothing to hook or grab onto, just friction of the plate, some chalk in your hand, and pinch grip. So these are right up there, just under pinching 255s or 225 kilo plates, which is kind of I would say the pinnacle of a single hand plate pinch. That's like as high as you can really get unless you're adding weight to it, which some people have done. But yeah, as far as just flat baseline difficulty for plate pinches, these are going to be pretty much harder than any 45-pound pair of plates and just under pinching 2 reds or 255-pound plates. This first kind of popped up into my mind from a lifter named Clint Ziegler. And Clint has a very good pinch strength with his right hand specifically. And like many grip feats, some of these things are kind of obscure, meaning that, when you get into it, everybody has a regular barbell. So if you're deadlifting, we can all, there's millions of people that are deadlifting. There's not really millions of people around the world that are finding obscure plates and trying to pinch them together in one hand. So the sample size is really, really small for that. So when I say these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people I list or the things I'm saying I did with them, that no one else in the world can do them. There are plenty of people that could. It's still a very, elite and kind of world-class level of pinch, but it's doable. There's just not a lot of people seeking it out, or maybe that's not their interest, or they don't have the plates and they could do it, but they don't have the plates, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into feats of strength. And the first part of that is, just even knowing that it's a feat of strength, and then knowing how to find the item, and then obviously having the strength and technique to deliver on the feat. So for me, getting into grip sport, Clint Ziegler was the first person to pinch a pair of these that that I know of, as far as anybody being, on recording, documented. And Clint Ziegler's the first to do this. And that's what kind of motivated me to get into it. So when I found some of these on Marketplace, I, super happy. It gave me something that was better than pinching, 245s, which I have done, and, both hands and everything else. So I was like, man, this is kind of another challenge to kind of get in between, pinching the 255s. So yeah, you're just always climbing the ladder with feats of strength if you're trying to push and kind of just progress up to the next level as you keep going. And these were real big, so for me to get these, so I got these down in North Carolina, and they're not really like fancy. I mean, you can find plates like this on eBay, you can find them anywhere. So they're not fancy, they're not super rare, but yeah, it is kind of rare for people to seek them out to plate pinch. So after that, Luke Raymond from Arm Assassin Strength Shop pinched a pair. And he was the second person, as far as I know, to do it. And Luke always has a great, very strong pinch, specifically one-hand pinch. It's ridiculous. So those guys, having lifted with them and competed against them before and, finding these plates myself, that was one of my goals. So I just kept working at this until I was able to pinch a pair of these single hand. And it took a decent while to, a lot of ground breaks, a lot of attempts before I could actually do it. And to my knowledge, I was the third person to pinch a pair of these. Like I said, how many people are really trying? I don't know. Probably not many. But especially in the grip world, these plates have been in front of people. They've tried it and they've seen it, and they kind of can know, what that really looks like or what it feels like specifically. So I pinched these, was the third person. There might be a few others that have done it since. I'm not sure. I have not really kept up to date with it. I will say that David Horn's World of Grip, you can look up a lot of feats on his site. So he has a record. David Horn's a grip pioneer, grip legend. He's been doing this forever. And he has a log on his page where, different tabs you can go down. You can check out all these different feats for anything from like inch dumbbell lifts to steel bending to plate pinches. And some of them get real crazy. I mean, it's like, pinching these plates with 2 fingers. And it's almost like, who's even keeping track of that, right? But for what it's worth, there's some pretty interesting stuff there and some more common feats of strength as well that are tracked. So I can kind of bring that up on the screen and kind of show you guys what that looks like. But you could check it out. And if any of the feats that you've ever done, or something similar to some of these lifts with inch dumbbells or plates, if you've done these, there's a way to submit those to David Horn and get added to that list. So it might be worth your time to kind of I don't know if we just want to say, keep history accurate as to who's done what. That's another place where your lifts could get tracked, or you could, submit things to David and he can put that on his list. So right now, as it stands, I think Clint Ziegler, Luke Raymond, and myself are the only 3 on his list currently for who's pinched a pair of these. And Clint and Luke pinched a different pair in Pennsylvania than the ones that I have. But I would say they're all pretty comparable in the sense that these, they usually take chalk pretty well unless they're painted a certain way. They are kind of gritty. So versus a regular plate, sometimes, the plates get slicker because they're kind of flat or they're smooth. With these kind of being a rougher cast, you're going to be able to kind of see that takes chalk pretty well. So, yeah, other than just, getting to lift them, kind of mentioning that stuff about David Horn there, there's some other uses I'll just get into really quick. Some other stuff you could do is obviously plate pinch or use them in any other fashion. Another thing in grip is a lot of times there's a loading pin centered between your legs, and your legs would actually be on the outside. So let's say if this was our loading pin, your feet would be positioned outside of this. But as you bring this stack up, if this had multiple 45s on it, you're going to start running into, the insides of your legs and hitting yourself with whatever, unless you take like a wider sumo stance, right? So a cool thing about these plates are if you have a standard loading pin that comes in at 1 inch, these things are 50 pounds, but they are basically the same size as 35s. So this is a York 35 right here. Just going to slide that on top. And I also have a comparison video I'll bring up. But yeah, that is it right there. Or if you want me to bring this up, I could show you guys what it looks like here, right? So that is a York 35. And that would be good in the sense that if you were trying to get a lot of weight on a loading pin, and you didn't want to take an odd stance or get too wide, or you didn't want it bumping the inside of your leg for whatever reason, using these plates that have basically a narrower profile can probably help you hit a better range of motion or have your stance more narrow, wherever you feel more comfortable. But it's the same thing with calibrated plates. Calibrated plates are real thin. You're still dealing with the width of them, but you can stack more on a loading pin quicker versus, the 45s, or especially deep dish. They just start to add up and just take up all that space on a loading pin. So these are really good because they're pretty thin. They're solid. They're filled out. So, you don't have this, this indentation and all this lettering. So, I mean, these are, completely just solid on both sides, and really good for loading pin lifts where you're looking to get a lot of weight on the pin, but you don't really want to mess with your stance or have, weights climbing up the loading pin getting in your way. So just a little bonus that I figured I'd point out with that. They do come in handy for that. But yeah, and they are right around like 14 something inches. I have the measurements out or up on the screen. But yeah, they're about a little over 14 inches, just like a 35-pound plate would be. And then if you wanted to just get an idea and kind of look at them versus a 45, I can kind of show you what that looks like. So if we are here, I'll try not to knock one of these plates off and break my foot. But yeah, so if we're here, you can kind of see what I mean by the size of them there in comparison to just a kind of a plain old 45-pound plate. And I think the 45s usually get to about 17 and a half inches or so, depending on the make. But yeah, you're seeing that excess there. And that's just going to be room that you would save, or more room that you could move your stance in narrow on a loading pin style lift if you have to straddle a loading pin. But yeah, that is it for the dimensions of it and kind of everything. So I believe when you actually put both of these together and pinch them, they're like right at like 2.5 inches, maybe a little between, 2.5 and 2 3/4, but not a 3-inch pinch. So definitely going to be a little bit more narrow, but they do kind of come in probably not much different than the Yorks would. Like these regular milled plates, they're pretty comparable. Some of this rounded edge might make it slightly thicker, but yeah, you're looking at about a 2.5-inch pinch or so for those. So pretty good for hand size, but at the same time, stupid heavy to pinch 100 pounds or so in a single hand. So it definitely takes a decent amount of training or a very high level of grip strength to pick two of these up in one hand. And yeah, just kind of talking about the size of them, trying to look at other stuff, loading pin space. Like I said, the height, basically like 35s, 14 something inches. I did weigh both of these. Both of them are in between 50 and 51 pounds. That's a big concern with some of these older plates that maybe aren't machined or lathed or whatever the process is to kind of, shave them down to like within the tolerance to make sure that they're accurate. There are cases where these are pretty good here because they're milled plates by York. But there's some other, weights, like if you're just getting random stuff on Marketplace or you're getting real cheap, generic plates, there's a good chance that your 45s can weigh anywhere from 41 to like 47, 48 pounds. I've seen people that have 45s that weigh 50 pounds. I've seen people that have them that they barely weigh 40, so you could be uneven, 4 to 5 pounds on either side of the bar, or just have a discrepancy there that maybe you think you're lifting a certain amount of weight, but you're not. So it's always good to have a scale and check it out. So for these, it's good to know that they are, at that 50-pound limit, or not limit, but 50-pound weight or more. So, that's the biggest thing with the Feat. As long as you're meeting the minimum requirement of the Feat, it really doesn't matter how much extra you do. So, yeah, these probably come in close to about 102 pounds together. But yeah, I usually just count it as a 100-pound lift with, just 250s. I don't add the decimals in there. But yeah, really big feat of strength. And I'm going to be just looping different videos in here. A lot of times I'm just doing pinches with them. I do know that some people get into flipping bumper plates, and those have that little bit of a lip on them, but they are kind of wide. So it does challenge your grip. But I mean, if you're going to do plate flips, you might, unless you're just looking like for coordination or something, but like if you just want to work the grip, you could literally just transfer a bumper plate back and forth. You don't have to have the flip. The flip is almost just an unnecessary thing to sort of like show off or flex a little bit. But as it's flipping, you might hit a finger, hyperextend something, depending on what it is, or so you can kind of just get the same dynamic grip from doing transfers. So I don't really know why people want to flip them, but that's like a little social media thing that people get into. And when that was kind of, I don't say getting big, but when I felt like people were kind of getting into plate flipping a little bit more, probably a couple years ago, I went out and I tried to do a plate flip with these because they do have good texture, but there's no lip to grab on. They're completely flat down both sides. So it's a very tough flip to land and catch. So I'll put that in the video. I did do a plate flip with these, which was pretty cool. I've single hand just cleaned one and done presses, just more like screwing around, like oddball stuff. The best stuff I've probably done with them would be the actual pinch lifts that I talked about earlier. But then I've also lifted certain blobs with them, or put things in my other hand to kind of challenge and make it a combo feat. So I've definitely comboed these with inch dumbbell blobs, maybe even some type of hub or hub curl. I have to go back and check some of the archives on the videos, but definitely was a big goal of mine to get to pinching these, and then the ability to combo them, definitely huge. Anybody that knows anything about doing feats of strength, lifting, basically lining yourself up to just lift one thing and focus all your energy and positioning on one item is a lot different than, I got to put this off to one side, then pick up something else at a different height, different weight, and totally changes the lift. You're not going to have that same kind of centered, optimal grip on these plates pinching them if the inch dumbbell's over here. You can't kind of focus the same way, or, it's going to change the lift. So anytime you go from a single hand lift to a combo feat, I don't care if the other thing is kind of just moderately easy, the difficulty of that lift increases, especially if it's right there at the top end of your, kind of like your maximal, strength at that time. A lot of little things have to go right for you to pull off combo lifts sometimes, unless you're just so much stronger than the feat you're doing, and then it's not really that big of a deal, right? So, that's just kind of getting into some of the oddities, oddballs I've done with these. Definitely like comboing them. Like I said, low, just kind of a lower profile. They're pretty thin in comparison because they're a full solid plate, no indentions. So all that weight's kind of packed in real tight. So really cool for if you were looking to, maybe drag them on a sled, like I said, save room on a loading pin, or just carry or do different lifts with where they're just not as bulky or wide as a regular 45. So that is probably going to do it mostly for the pancakes here. They're really solid plates, but a lot of times people will see these with the 1-inch hole, or they're standard and they only use Olympic plates, and they just think that there's no purpose for them. So if you see a pair, they're generally very cheap. People are usually selling these $1 a pound or less. So it's nothing to find a pair and pick these up on Marketplace, or get them off eBay or something. Generally, they're not going to be very expensive, and it might give you something to work towards if you are pushing the higher end of plate pinch goals, or if you just need some beater plates to throw on a sled somewhere or toss on some machine of yours. These might be cheapos that you could just, get good weight with kind of a smaller footprint on. So there's a lot of uses beyond just pinching them or doing a feat of strength with them. So just wanted to kind of bring up how I've used them, bring up some of my lifts with them, and just say that, if anybody else out there has access to these or sees them, if you're in grip sport, or if you're just a fan of strength in general, you like challenging yourself, see if you can pinch 2 of these together and pick them up. If you do, shoot me the video, submit it to David Horn, submit it to the grip board. I don't know, anywhere, but let's just see who can lift these, or how many other people out there can actually do it. Because as of right now, I can only name maybe 3 or 4 off the top of my head that I know have done it. I could probably name dozens of others that I know could do it. They just need the plates in front of them on the right day. So, just challenging everybody to get out there, get your hands on some of these, put them to use, or, climb that plate pinch ladder and see if you can actually pinch a pair. Any questions, comment below, hit me up on other videos, wherever, just comment to me. I'll get back to everybody. And, wish everybody, the best in their training and everything. And any questions of the plates, feats, or how things stack up against other lifts, I'm always, real responsive in the comments, and I always get back to people. So hit me up and let me know. And if you're ever close to me or we're ever at a competition, you want me to bring them through, you want to give them a try, just reach out, and I'll take them to competitions if I'm ever at a grip sport event somewhere, or if I'm ever doing something. And always happy to give people a chance to lift some new stuff or do something they've never done before. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Stay tuned for some more videos that I'll have on the way. Thank you.